What's going on, everybody? I am that driving guy, and my office gets me where I'm going. If this is your first time and you get some value from these videos, go ahead and subscribe, hit the bell, and hit all. That way you're notified every time I drop a video. So I wanted to make this video real quick because there are some things that I'm noticing that Dashers are still doing that will affect their rating, and it also makes it difficult for customers to want to leave a tip to a Dasher because of these little things that are so simple to avoid, but Dashers are still doing it. And if you're new, these are definitely some things that you want to avoid, and also some things that you want to do in order to keep your ratings high, in order to make sure that you're earning a tip. Now, for some reason, a lot of Dashers may feel that a tip should be mandatory, right? But you have to think of it along these lines as well. When you go to a restaurant and you sit down, you don't tip the waiter or the waitress before they even serve you. People usually tip, at least me personally, and if you're the same way, drop it in the comments or hit like or let me know. But when you go to a restaurant, you usually base your tip on the waiter or the waitress's performance, on the service that they gave you, on the experience that they gave you when they were serving you. If the person that's serving you don't come and check on you if you need drinks, if they mess your order up, if they don't handle your food properly, you're not going to tip them, or you're not going to give them you may not give them a good tip, or you may not tip them at all. Me personally, if you give me crappy service, I'm not going to tip you. It's not mandatory just because you're working, and the same thing should apply for us as Dashers. A tip should not be mandatory, or it should not be something that is given until you see the type of service that you get from this Dasher. And lately I've been keep taking note of some of my Dashers that I've received or that deliver my food, and noticing some of these things that they do that affects their rating and or their tip. Now, I still have not looked into whether or not I'm able to take a tip away if I've already given it before I receive my order, or if I'm able to give a tip or an additional tip later. They say that you are able to tip afterwards up to so many hours, 24, 48 hours or whatever. But your performance matters, and it should not be just because you're out here dashing that you automatically get a tip just for doing that, and then you provide crappy service, because that's not right, and it's not fair to the customer either. So some things that you should and should not do as a Dasher. So the first thing is, you definitely should communicate with your customer. If you are waiting past the pickup time for the order, let the customer know. Send them a quick text. Hey, I'm still here. They're kind of busy, or whatever the reason is. Let the customer know, because we are able to cover ourselves and select why the order is taking long. And it gives you reasons. If you, click whether the store is busy, you can't get someone to help you, or they're still working on the order, we can give a reason, but the customer is not notified of that reason. That's just to cover us as far as our time goes on being on time with the delivery, so the time can be adjusted properly. But the customer is not aware of this, so communicating that information back to the customer to let them know, even though they're able to track the orders, letting them know what's going on, giving them a heads up, is just something that is going to help you in the long run. Also, if anything needs to be replaced, if they don't have something, or you want to try to check to see if there's something that they will like. In place of that, communicate that to the customer. Touch bases with them. Introduce yourself. I always like to leave an impression on my customers because that's going to help my ratings. I'm a 4.99 right now. If for some reason Doordash is really, I don't know what's going on with it, but they just won't let me get to that 5-star. It's cool, but my ratings are able to stay high, and I'm green on pretty much everything except my acceptance rating. But my ratings are able to stay high because I leave an impression on my customers. I provide a great customer experience, very personable. I touch bases. I like to communicate with my customers so that my ratings, because I take pride in my ratings. Understand? This is my business, so I treat it serious and I take pride in those types of things. Another thing that I noticed that Dashers are not doing is using their hot and cold bags. I made an order not long ago and received the order and my food was cold. I provide a tip, ahead of time because I understand what it's like to dash. So I want to make sure that I'm, hitting them off with something nice so that they can add on to whatever Doordash is going to give them. But if my food is cold because of my Dasher's negligence and irresponsibility not to handle my food properly, then now I feel like, dang, man, I wish I could take my tip back, or it puts me in the mindset where now I may take that out on the next Dasher because of what the previous Dasher did. You understand what I'm saying? And that's not fair to us. So use your hot and cold bags. If you don't have one, I'll leave the link in the description for the Doordash store. If you don't already have it, you can go there, get you your hot and cold bag, get you a catering bag, get you what you need in order to handle the food properly for the customer. Because these are just simple things that should be done anyway. You understand? These are things that you should get into a habit of doing. And I know a lot of times for some of us that have been dashing for a while, we sometimes fall into bad habits. We develop these bad habits because we want to take shortcuts because, we get a little bit comfortable, and some things we want to try to do workarounds. But when it comes to handling a customer's food, there should not be any shortcuts. You should always want to make sure that you're doing the right things and don't develop these bad habits, because these bad habits, they're going to definitely reflect on your ratings and possibly even your tips. Because of your actions, it can affect other Dashers, like I said before. Another thing with handling the food properly, and I see this time and time again. One time I dropped a delivery off, and this customer must have made two orders for Doordash at two separate stores. When I got there, they had one food delivery that was directly in front of their screen door. And I put mine off to the side. You have to stop doing this. Stop leaving food in front of people's doors, making it difficult for them to get their food without ruining it. And I even looked in some comments where Dashers are trying to justify this. Oh, well, you could have used your back door, or they shouldn't have to do anything that's going to be out of the way for them when they already made the order and they're waiting on their food. Put the food to the side. Think, pay attention to what you're doing when you're making these deliveries, because this has happened to me a couple of times, and I'm sitting there like, I don't understand what's going on with these Dashers, why they would do something like this. And then they do it with things that of course would get ruined if it's knocked over, like drinks and stuff like that. I don't even order drinks from Doordash anymore, so I can avoid that. If it's just the food, you know, I can afford pushing that to the side if it tip over or whatever. I usually don't order things that will cause damage or cause any type of harm to my food or make it a problem for me. So I don't order drinks because I don't want to have to get a dasher that doesn't do the right things. But stop doing these types of things. If you're new, pay attention to the way that you're handling the food. Make sure that you're using the hot and cold bags. Make sure that you are not leaving the food in front of their door. Make sure that you are communicating with your customer. Build up a rapport so that your ratings in the long run are going to reflect this. It's going to show because you're providing a good service to the customer. Don't make it bad for the next dasher because of the things that you're doing wrong, and you give the customer the mentality of taking that out on the next dasher that they get. They may not want to leave a tip for the next dasher because of what the previous dasher did. You understand what I'm saying? So pay attention to these things. Do the right thing when you're out there. Stay safe. I appreciate all of y'all for checking me out. And as I said before, if you get some value from these videos, hit subscribe, the bell, and all. And check out the description box. If you need to get a hot and cold bag or anything like that, you can hit up the Doordash store and get all of those essentials. So until next time, I'ma holla.